Good morning and welcome to Wake Up Wichita, the show where we're keeping you caught up, laughing a little, and getting your day started right here in the Air Capital. I'm Kayla G, and this week we're talking local events, what's trending online, and a few stories that definitely woke us up before the coffee kicked in. This week we've got this.
Kids want to pass tests, right? So sometimes they might squint and strain to see everything clearly or read it with their good eye.
When he loses his family in season 1, he sort of loses his purpose.
All that and more right here on a show we like to call Wake Up Wichita.
Some stories don't fade with time, especially when they involve trust, friendship, and betrayal. The new 3-part Hulu docuseries, Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, revisits the 2012 disappearance of a West Virginia teenager and the shocking truth that followed. It's a story told through social media, personal interviews, and voices closest to the case. So joining us this morning are director Claire Titley and former FBI agent and polygraph examiner Dr. Rob Ambrosini. Thank you two for being here. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
All right, Claire, what stood out to you about this case and what made you feel like it needed to be revisited now, more than a decade later?
I think one of the things that made me that was so kind of shocking about this case when I first kind of looked at it was the fact that it's 2012 and it's quite a unique era in a way for social media, because it was that era where social media was new. It was kind of a new frontier. It was the kind of Wild West though as well. And teenagers were experimenting with it. They were just putting their entire lives online. They didn't have the hindsight that we have now about kind of, what could possibly go wrong. But also it was an era where adults weren't really looking at social media. So nobody was kind of checking up on them. There were no sort of checks and balances. And that makes that generation of teenagers at that kind of time particularly unique. They're almost like the guinea pigs of social media. And
the series used Skylar's own words and social media posts that you said. How did that storytelling change the ways this story unfolds for viewers?
I think it was really important to us to try and give Skylar a voice. We didn't want her to just be a kind of a plot point in a true crime, where she's just the kind of victim and has no voice. We really wanted her to have agency in telling her own story, which is harder than it sounds, obviously when she's gone. But she left behind this incredible sort of archive of tweets, of digital messages, but also her own writing as well. So we worked very closely with her parents to make sure that we could just bring her voice kind of front and center, and that she could at least be a part of telling this story from the inside out. So we interview her friends as well, quite comprehensively, so that we can hear this story from the 16-year-old perspective, including Skylar herself.
And Dr. Ambrosini, you spent 24 years with the FBI. You've conducted thousands of polygraph exams. When you look at this case, what role did interviewing and behavioral analysis play in getting the truth?
Well, interviewing really played a significant role. And long before I became involved in the case, the two young girls, they were interviewed by case agents, state troopers, local police investigators. And during that process, you kind of started seeing this evolution of what really should be fact, right? When things are fact, it doesn't change, right? The truth is the truth, and it's always going to be the truth. But there were indications during these interviews that really did result in kind of like this evolution of their story. And of course, when that happens, the logical investigation is, why is this person changing that story, right? So this case is kind of about the behavior that's exhibited, the ideation, what's going on, what are they thinking, and how are they communicating? And that really speaks to the social media that you have here, which again was kind of in its infancy stage, if you will, compared to what it is now. So really, a lot of it did come down to the really significant interviews that the investigators were doing.
And one of the most unsettling aspects is how normal these friendships appeared on the surface. How does this case reveal about the hidden conflict, and especially among teenagers?
I think what we really wanted to do with this series was kind of remind people what it's like to be 16. It's very easy to forget when you become an adult, and put that behind you. But about the fact that when you are that age, your brain behaves in such a way that your friends become much more important than your parents, than your family. Everything is very heightened. your reasoning is off, if you like. Your idea of consequences, you know, is very different to that of an adult's. And when you have that combined with social media that is completely I say unregulated, but unwatched by anybody else, that's where the kind of combination was kind of so dangerous, really, I think, particularly for that generation who didn't have the hindsight that we have now.
And Claire, after someone watches all 3 episodes, what do you hope stays with them?
I hope people do reflect on their own use of sort of social media, on their children, on their family as well, and remember what it's like to be that age. But also, I hope that they come away from this feeling like they know Skylar, and you know, she would have turned 30 just a few weeks ago. So that's a life that she didn't have. And she should have gone to college. She wanted to be a lawyer. You know, there's all this life that didn't happen. And I'd love for people to come away knowing and remembering Skylar as she was.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, with all 3 episodes available to stream now on Hulu. I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What if a high school class helped breathe new life into a decades-old murder investigation? That's the incredible true story behind Murder 101. The new docuseries follows students who uncover new leads in a cold case while learning that they can make a real difference. Joining us is director Stacey Lee, who brings this remarkable story to the screen. Stacey, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing well. Thank you so much.
This whole story starts in a high school sociology class. At what point did you realize this was way bigger than a classroom assignment?
Probably from the very first day. You know, Mr. Campbell brings a lot of main character energy, shall we say. Before I started, I got to witness him in action, teaching actually another class, history, I think it was. And that man knows how to deliver a story. You know, he would just have the plot lines and the drama like ramping up until the final bell, where students are like teetering on a cliffhanger. And he just like, they're dying to come back the next day. And I think like, what other teacher has students excited to come to class the next day? Not many, that's for sure.
The series follows students investigating the redhead murders. What impressed you the most about the way these young people approach such a difficult and even emotional case?
I think the students' superpower is truly their ability to empathize with the victims. You know, when you see so much true crime, it's oftentimes the hero, the killer becomes like somehow the hero. And because these victims were oftentimes the same age as the students, they went missing from malls, they went missing from football matches, places and circumstances that the students themselves are also doing and experiencing at the same time. I think it just hits really different. And so immediately the women become humanized. They become so much more than a statistic or a body found on the side of the road. They start to become like friends or sisters, or, you know, they know that they have loved ones. And then immediately once they start seeing them that way and caring for them that way, you know, they're empowered to share that with the community around them. And truly with cold cases, because it's been so long, the biggest thing to affect change is affecting the change in the community, you know, in the hopes that someone might know something and speak up.
True crime can sometimes focus more on the mystery than the people involved. How important was it for you to keep the victims and their families at the heart of the story?
Incredibly important, because I think that's what the students resonated with as well. Like, you know, my job as a documentary filmmaker is to truly immerse myself in their world so I can most authentically translate that to screen. And, you know, really taking the students' lead, Mr. Campbell's lead, like what are they most curious about? What are they most interested in? And oftentimes it was the things we were already feeling ourselves. And my favorite true crime is the true crime when you feel like you're part of it, that you're an investigator on the case as well. And that's how we really wanted this series to feel, that you're following along, you're learning details, you're putting clues together at the same time the students are, so that you're really engaged and you care about it, you know, just as much as they do.
You've directed documentaries about music and culture before. What drew you to true crime, and what made Murder 101 the right project for your first documentary in this genre?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I've always loved youth culture and coming of age stories. And I think that there was something incredibly unique about the mashup of these two worlds, right? Like high school life, breakups, prom, graduation, like all of these like seminal moments in teenage life. juxtaposed side by side with like really dark, grisly, intense true crime. I was fascinated by how these two very opposing forces could kind of work together. And I think ultimately the effect is you just start to turn the genre on its head. You start to see a genre that is, very well played out in today's culture in a new light. You see the victims differently, but most importantly, as I expressed earlier, it's like you start to see the teenagers differently, what they're capable of when you actually believe in them.
What do you hope viewers take away, not just from the investigation, but from seeing what these students were able to accomplish?
I think one of the biggest Trojan horses in this story is about the power of like a really good teacher. The effect of this real world learning of giving the students real stakes changes the way they care about and engage with the material that they're interacting with. The education system obviously really leans into testing and things like that allows us to like standardize a large population. But real world learning is unpredictable. It is, has all these things that are quite challenging to kind of govern, but it also has a profound effect on the students who can engage with it in a meaningful way. And I think that for me, opens up a much larger conversation about how we teach teenagers. Is it that they're just not concentrating or not learning, or is it that they're not engaged? Does it not have a real world impact on their lives and what they're going to, face as they leave high school?
Hey, I want to thank you for joining me today. Murder 101 is streaming now on Prime Video, where all 3 episodes are available to watch. Stacey Lee, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to bring out one of the most beloved family stories ever told to a new generation? Little House on the Prairie is now streaming on Netflix, introducing the Ingalls family to longtime fans and first-time viewers alike. Today, we're joined by Bracey and Crosby Fitzgerald, who play Charles and Caroline Ingalls. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for having us.
I'm doing great. My mom was a huge fan of Little House on the Prairie, so I just grew up watching all of the old shows. And it has meant so much to generations of readers and viewers. What was your first reaction when you found out that you'd be playing Charles and Caroline Ingalls?
Oh, I sort of screamed and cried, I think. Yeah, it's daunting, but it was extremely exciting because I loved the scripts and I really trusted the creators of the show and was ready to sort of take on this new approach to the literature.
Yeah, I was thrilled to play this character of Charles because I just saw kind of a wonderful story and a good man. And I think the world needs nice stories about people trying to be good people and trying their best in a hard world and realizing that they need their family and they need their community. And, that was the real thrill for me when it came to this job. It's a nice story about people trying their best and not always succeeding and not being perfect. I just thought that was a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful story to have the privilege of being a part of.
And this series honors the original stories while creating something fresh for today's audience. How did each of you guys approach making these iconic characters your own?
I think, I wanted to honor what was in the books and kind of what we know of Caroline vaguely, but I also was really excited to sort of see her as a human who is flawed and complex and, it has a lot of room to grow. And that's what I loved about the script, I think. And there was a lot in the script that I got to play with, I think, in learning about Caroline as a full person who's, a wife and a mother is just two of the many things that she is. And I love how the script did that in these stories.
And one of the things people have always loved about Little House on the Prairie is that it celebrates family while never shying away from the realities of frontier life. What do you think audiences will connect with most in this new adaptation?
I think they might connect with the fact that life's always been difficult. Life's difficult now, and life was difficult then, and life's going to be difficult in the future. But if you've got good people around you and you're trying to be a good person, you've got good kind of core of people helping each other, be that family or community or friends or whatever it is, that's where you really succeed in life rather than just doing it yourself. No one really makes it by just doing it themselves. I think that might be something that people take from it. It takes a village to get far in life. It's really hard to just be a one-man band and try and break through the realities of the world, which are that there's things that are going to come and try and drag you down. And without other people around you, you won't get through them.
And whether someone grew up with the books or the original television series, or experienced Little House on the Prairie for the very first time, what do you hope they take away from this version?
I think it's such a great, it takes a greater view of the prairie and of the frontier. I think that's what's really excited about our series. And I don't know, there is something timeless about looking at history through the eyes of a child, because we have children all the time that are experiencing life now, and it will one day be history. And I think it's really important to see, history in sort of through the lens of a child in a sort of an aspirational way that we can all kind of learn from.
Yeah, there's hope there, right? Yeah. There's hope that even though life is tough, it can be you can make it through the tough times. I think that's what children always have. They can see that life might be hard, but they always see out the other side of it somehow.
They have to.
They have to.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Little House on the Prairie is available now to stream on Netflix. Luke, Bracey, Crosby Fitzgerald, I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having us. Good to talk to you.
So what would you do if someone from your past came back to turn your life upside down? That's the chilling idea behind Cape Fear, the new psychological thriller that's been keeping viewers on edge. Joining us today are Lily Callias and Malia Piles, who play Natalie Bowden and Nevaeh Valentine in the series. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Hey, we're
good.
How are
happy
you?
to be here.
Very happy to be here.
Cape Fear is packed with suspense, but it's also very character-driven. What drew each of you to your characters?
I think the fluidity of her arc, for me personally, I think Natalie is the kind of girl who didn't ever have to second guess things in her life. And it was so interesting to play someone that, like, I don't think it's calculated whatsoever, because, the circumstances are so specific that playing with what she's feeling even on that day or like that night, like, because she's just finding out new things every single day. It was just such a blessing.
Yeah. I love Natalie so much.
She loves Nevaeh.
I know. And we love each other.
What can we say?
I mean, with Nevaeh, it was similar, where it's like, it was pretty obvious right off the bat that she's like a deeply complex character. And I so value Nick, our showrunners and our creators, writing. I mean, just based off her name too, Nevaeh is literally heaven backwards. I was like, there's an immediacy to, I'm like, there's an attention to detail and a style to this show that's like really intriguing to me. And, I never had the opportunity to play a character that's so villainous at times. And, I think that was such a cool person to be in step with for so many months.
Without giving anything away, your characters develop an interesting friendship. What was it like building that relationship together on set?
I mean, it's so easy because Malia as a person is someone that I connect with. I'm so grateful to call her like one of my best friends now. We really like had each other's backs, and we go through some intimate things together as characters, and the fact that we would be able to go home together and discuss and kind of just like throw ideas to a wall together was just like such a blessing, because at the end of the day, all we want to do is play. So it was just so fun to have that relationship with you.
Yeah, there was like an immediacy there. I mean, we met in the car and we were just both like completely vibrating with energy, and it was really easy to get to fall in love with these characters and then fall in love with her in a lot of ways. I mean, like she said, we'd go home from work after these crazy long days and like watch movies together, and then bring parts of those movies into work the next day and be like, hey, can we bring this to our characters? And so, I mean, it was in a lot of ways just like a great lesson in trust and building something that feels at times like greater than just like the work you're putting out.
The series has such an incredible cast, including Javier Bardem, Amy Adams, Patrick Wilson. What did you learn from working alongside actors like that?
So much every single day. I think at the core of it is to put things that are genuinely important in your life first, and your artistry comes alongside with your life. And they were just always so grounded and humble with their ways of teaching. And I think like Javier feels like very almost like dreamlike in his process, and Amy's super technical. You know, everyone just like brought different things to the table, and I feel like it all just like mixed so well together.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like doing a horror beat with Patrick Wilson when you get to be the creepy thing behind his shoulder. I'm like, I feel like I'm in Insidious. Like, it's so cool.
I love making this perfect, gorgeous man go through hell.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Cape Fear is streaming now on Apple TV with new episodes released every Friday. Malia, Lily, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Have you ever rooted for two characters to finally figure it out, even though life keeps getting in the way? That's a big part of what has fans coming back to Ransom Canyon. Season 2 picks up 6 months later, and with more questions about love, family, and what home really means. Joining us are the stars of the series, Josh Duhamel and Minka Kelly. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Season 2 picks up 6 months after the finale without giving anything away. Where do we find Staten and Quinn emotionally when we see them again?
Well, I think that, you know, if I could take that one, my character is definitely ready to treat this relationship with the care that it deserves. Because I think he realizes after having these 6 months away, he realizes that he probably could have made more of an effort, probably could have done things differently, could have called, could have wrote, could have gone to see her, didn't do any of those things. And I think that he really wants to right the wrongs of, you know, the past mistakes he's made in this relationship. And then he finds out very quickly after that she moved on, and it's too late, dude.
One of the big themes this season is choosing between the life you built and the life you dreamed about. Minka, what makes Quinn's decision so difficult this time around?
Well, you know, she was in 6 months, in New York for 6 months, and, you know, it's a little easier, out of sight, out of mind, to romanticize this new life that she could possibly live, and meets this new guy who on paper makes so much sense and says and does all the right things. And then she goes home as she'd always planned, and she's then faced with this new version of Staten that she's wanted from him her whole life, and it's a little too late. So now she's in this predicament of, do I turn my back on this new thing that feels fresh and new and potentially promising, or do I take the opportunity, this chance to fulfill this dream of hers, you know, where she comes home, where she realizes that home isn't just this place, it's this person. And that just becomes so undeniable for her. And home is where the heart is.
And Josh, Staten has always been driven by protecting his family's legacy, but this season seems to put love more at the center of his journey. How does that change him?
Well, I think that the two kind of go hand in hand. The ranch has been so part of him and his family for so long that he sort of conflates the two. Like family, land, legacy are all kind of part of all he cares about, really. And when he loses, sorry, I took this hat from the set. I'm going to take it off. When he loses his family in season 1, he sort of loses his purpose and not really sure how he wants to go forward with the ranch. And I think that there's something happens along the way when, I think it's after she leaves, that he really realizes that he wants to share this with her. He doesn't want to go forward without having Quinn with him. And all of these things sort of come together to give him this purpose to keep going with the ranch and keep doing these things that he's done forever. And without her, there's not really much reason to keep doing it.
Also, the chemistry between the two of you has become one of the biggest reasons fans have embraced the show. What is it like continuing that relationship this season now that the stakes are even higher?
I think this season was really fun exploring this. You know, it's a whole different sort of energy between the two of them. You know, it's like she was gone and was able to just sort of, she went to play with the New York Phil and choose herself and live this new fun life, out of sight, out of mind, and have some fun for a little while. And then she comes home to this new version of Staten where he's so light and charming and funny, and this is the love of her life. And so that new dynamic between them is really fun in season 2 to play with and to be genuinely charmed by. And so it's a big difference from season 1 and season 2 in that regard, I think, which is really fun.
Josh, Minka, I really want to thank you for hanging out with me today. Ransom Canyon Season 2 is now available to stream on Netflix. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning.
Thanks for having us.
School is almost here, and families are getting everything ready for the new year. One thing that can be easy to forget is a comprehensive eye exam. Dr. Amanda Nancy is here with tips to help parents make sure their kids are ready to see their best this school year. Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So if parents know vision is important, why aren't more kids getting comprehensive eye exams before school starts?
I think honestly, it's just because as parents, we have so much to do and to keep track of and to get the kids to be ready. And if it's not on the top of our list, it's probably because our kid is one of the ones that did not tell us that they're having a hard time seeing the screen clearly or whatever it is that could be a problem for them. Kids don't know what they don't know. And even if there is a problem, sometimes they're not the best at telling us. So one thing that we need to know is that vision is really important for academics. So if parents have that comprehensive eye exam, they can assure that the kids are going to see clearly to perform their best.
And what are some signs of vision problems parents should be watching for?
Some of the easy ones are squinting, getting too close to things, even holding devices closer than they should. Some of the more subtle ones are just decreases in performance, either on the field if they're playing a sport, or even if they're not performing at grade level or reading is challenging for them or something they don't like to do. Sometimes those are the kids that are my favorite to get into glasses and contacts because we can make such a big difference with their confidence and get them clear to where they can do everything they need to academically.
And many parents think school vision screenings are the same as comprehensive eye exams. What are the differences?
So on that school screening, they've got a chart up there and kids want to pass tests, right? So sometimes they might squint and strain to see everything clearly or read it with their good eye and then memorize it and read it with the other. Also, they show them something up close and right now it might be clear, but in 30 minutes it might be kind of blurry and the letters start to jumble. So when you have the comprehensive eye exam, the doctor's actually finding out what the prescription is to make sure that they're seeing at their best. And they're also doing a dilated eye exam to make sure that the eyes are healthy. There is no replacement for that.
And for teens who are active in sports and spend a lot of time on screens, are contact lenses a good option?
They're a great option. I'll tell you that sometimes I have parents that say, I don't know if my child's ready for contact lenses. They have a messy room or whatever it is. But now we have lenses like Precision One, which is a daily disposable. They literally just put the lens in the morning, throw it away at the end of the day. So hygiene is not a concern. The lenses are easy to handle. So they're easy to take in and out. They're comfortable. They're clear all day, even if they're on the screens, if they're playing sports. And it's also really nice to have an option if the child wants to sometimes wear glasses or contacts. My daughter's 13 and she loves to wear her cute glasses at school, but then she's a golfer. So when she goes out on the course, she has her contacts lenses with Al here and she pulls them out, wears them for when she wants to wear them. And then she has the freedom and flexibility to what fits her lifestyle.
And where can people go for more information?
They can go to myalcon.com/back-to-school to learn more about contact lenses for their kids and teens and also have a doctor locator. So if they need to find someone to get that comprehensive eye exam, they'll know that their kids are truly ready to go back to school.
Dr. Amanda Nancy, it has been a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for waking up with us right here on Wake Up Wichita. We'll see you next time with more fun, more local stories, and everything you need to start your day on a good note. If you can't wait till next week, I know I can't. Be sure to follow us on social media or YouTube. Until next time, that was a show we like to call Wake Up Wichita.